2.
He likes movies, we like movies. Septo Sid versus the world. Septo Sid versus the world. Septo Sid versus the world. Septo Sid versus the world.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting film journey here on Delusions of Grandeur. We're back, and I figured I'd subject you guys to, Boris, you kind of opened the door for this one,
Yeah, I did.
I know quite a few older court dramas, and this was one of them that was very popular when it came out, and I know it was very talked about at the time that it happened, and I figured I'd bring it to the table.
Wait, that's based on a true story.
I'm not sure if it is based on a true story. What's that noise?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's as bad as the noise as the woman claimed that she had actually seen the murder and heard the screams, or what was it? The old man who had actually heard the "I'll kill you." But we'll get into that.
Yeah, by the way, this noise was me trying to open my drawer, which got stuck because of all the clutter inside.
You shouldn't be keeping that dead body in there, though.
Well, you know what's funny? A moment ago, I passed by my parents' bedroom, and they are doing, I don't know, some small renovation or something, and there was a bed sheet spread over the bed with I don't even know what stuff underneath. And I said, I told my mother, do you know your bedroom looks like a murder scene right now?
Well, in any case, so the movie that I subjected you guys to is a film that was filmed in 1957. And it's a first-time directorial thing by Sidney Lumet. And I know it was based on a teleplay from 1954. So, let's see here. Let's see what IMDb says about it. All right, so IMDb says the jury in a New York City murder trial is frustrated by a single member whose skeptical caution forces them to more carefully consider the evidence before jumping to a hasty verdict. So, the film does star Henry Fonda, which he starred in many different films over time, but one that I remember that he was in was called Spencer's Mountain, which, if not for Spencer's Mountain, we wouldn't have had the Walton family. So, the Waltons TV show. But there was also Lee J. Cobb, Ed Begley, E.G. Marshall, Jack Warden, Martin Balsam, John Fiedler, Jack Klugman, who played in the original Odd Couple television series, and he played in an MD doctor television show after that. And he was in a couple of Twilight Zone episodes. So,
Oh, wow.
Edward Binns, Joseph Sweeney, George Voskovec, and Robert Weber. The screenplay was originally by Reginald Rose, and this was produced by Henry Fonda and Reginald Rose. I didn't realize that Henry Fonda actually was a producer behind it. So I guess he's kind of been like a guiding force to get this film made at the time. But anyways, let's go into first impressions here. Tammy is. I'm going to go with you because last time I went to Boris when I hosted first. So, what were your thoughts on this film, and was this a first time watch for you?
Yeah, it was a first time watch. I like I watch a lot of stuff like this anyways, you know. So, and I've read a lot of, I guess you want to say, crime books or whatever. So, I found it very interesting, especially when they started breaking things down and, you know, analyzing things a little bit more, you know. The 12 guys, the jurors, you know. So I found it interesting to see what each one remembered about things from the trial and everything, and, you know, and how they were putting it all together. So,
Okay. And heading over to you, Boris. Was this a first time watch for you?
Yes, it was the first time, but I enjoyed it. It was interesting. Uh, it was intriguing enough to keep my attention, to make me want to figure out what the truth was. The only thing I kind of wish is when they were discussing all the evidence and so on, I wish we got some flashbacks portraying on screen how they were visualizing the whole thing happening, who saw this, who saw that, and so on. It would have, if we saw more of it on screen through some flashbacks or something, it would have made it a lot easier to visualize how the whole thing supposedly happened. But
Well, unfortunately, this is exactly what it's like in a when the trial has already been done and it's sent over to the jury. The jury then goes into a back room somewhere, and the rules that they lay down is exactly that. You know, it's got to be a deliverance of how many of all votes have to point to guilty, or else it's a hung jury. You know, or vice versa. You know, it's either guilty, not guilty, or hung jury.
yeah,
So every one of those
now keep in
jurors
mind,
has to weigh the evidence, and when they go into that back room, they have every right to before they decide on what their final vote is, whether they are guilty or not guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
keep in mind, not every state, not every jurisdiction or whatever is the same way. Some of them, it does not have to be unanimous. I mean, you know, in some of them, if you don't, not all 12 have to agree. Okay. It's every state is, you know, has their own kind of like set in a way.
And And that's the interesting thing too. There are even small towns who have their own jury rules too. Like if you've ever seen a Matlock episode, there are times where he's like in some city that's in bum Egypt, and they've got their own ways and things that have nothing to do with like some of the bigger city stuff, and sometimes it's rough, you know, when it's down to only a few rules and you can't get out of them, you know, it all depends.
Yeah.
So, and well, let me go into my. I saw this many years ago, so I didn't remember all of it. But now that I have, I'm glad that I did again because it's an interesting trial. They're all talking about this trial that they just saw. They heard all the evidence, and it's interesting how it starts with almost every single one of them stating that the kid was guilty, and one person just saying, "I don't know," you know. He has doubts, and it's their prerogative to pull it out of him exactly why he thinks the way he thinks. And there are like four of them who, throughout the entire thing, are dead sure that the kid is guilty no matter what. So I thought that this was an interesting story. I thought it was cool the way everybody kind of reflected, and some of them were just plain
Assholes.
well, not just assholes, just kind of not caring. Some of them were bitching about there's a baseball game afterwards or whatnot. Another guy's a salesman, so he couldn't stop like talking, you know. And another guy's a watch dealer. The guy Henry Fonda's character, he eventually admitted that he was an architect, you know. And I mean, not every single one of these men do they entirely divulge what they do in their lives, and you don't have to when you're a juror. You don't have to say who the heck you are. Although,
Actually,
although
sorry.
when you're actually, at least the one that I was part of, they asked me what I did as a profession. Okay, so people knew what I did as a profession before I went into the jury room. So
I never got to act because when I was called for jury duty, I was actually an officer at the well, it's not the hard jail, but the jail. So
Uh,
and the judge that was overseeing the proceedings happened to have been my lawyer when I was a teenager.
who?
So they're like, "Do you know anybody in the courtroom?" And I'm like, yeah." So I got dismissed because not only was I a correctional officer, I also knew the judge. So I never got to serve.
yeah, I got to serve because I can't exactly prove that I'm insane or anything, even though I know I say some insane things, but you know, they couldn't get me on anything, so I had to stay. But I enjoyed the subs, and and honestly, I think it was because of me that I was able to get us down to at least somewhat of a decision. But in any case, moving forward on this, let's talk a little bit about the plot line. So, a little bit of the background of the story. Okay, apparently a kid, an 18-year-old kid who has and we find this out throughout the film. He's an 18-year-old kid, has a history of being abused, has a history of, I think he stole a car, he mugged someone, and he ended up in some kind of detentionary center, all by the time he was 15. Okay.
Yes.
But I guess it was mentioned that his father was abusive.
Yes.
And okay, there's a woman who supposedly woke up to the sound of woke up to the and saw the murder. Claims she saw the murder, and even some of the guys were saying saw the kid go in a downward motion in a 10-second or I think it was 10 seconds of a 6-car train that apparently was right across the street from the window of the supposed murder. Okay, well, I'm going to say the murder did happen because there was a murder that happened. Now, there was a switchblade involved. The kid had supposedly picked up a switchblade from a store and went to a theater that showed a double feature, but he could not remember the titles or the people who were in them for the life of him when he came back. Now, supposedly, this all happened in a 3-hour span. Supposedly, there was an argument between him and his old man. An older man who lived downstairs, who later we found out had a limp in his leg that he was trying to hide while he was in the courtroom, which made some think that he might have had a heart attack to have that happen, like maybe a year before.
Didn't they say a stroke or
Yeah,
maybe
a stroke, which it's different than a heart attack. So stroke, and supposedly he woke. He heard a woman scream. He supposedly heard someone say, "I'll kill you," or something to that effect, and then supposedly he made it to made it to unlock the door, down the hallway about 43 feet, and opened up the staircase in enough time to see the kid fly down the staircase. And because of these two witnesses, it made them have a strong case and motive because of that argument and the woman actually having seen the murder. And this is all now, Tammy, did I say anything that was wrong, or did I get it?
Well, we didn't get to the part where they're picking the witnesses apart yet, so
No, we
You're
didn't. I'm
just
just trying to state some of the facts as we know them throughout, having watched the movie to
right. This is what the
its extent and the things that we found out along the way.
well, this is basically what you said is basically what the jurors originally went into the room and with them with these things in their head. It's we haven't gotten to the part yet where they start picking these things apart, but yeah, this was the basic evidence against the kid. Yes.
Yep,
So
and it's enough to have everyone one in that room except for one to label this man as guilty. Well, as the rules that they are setting down apply, all 12 of them have to agree on one or the other, or it's a hung jury.
one thing you didn't need to mention is the kid said he didn't remember what movies were playing in or who was in them at the time of questioning, but during the trial, he did remember, and that was something important for later.
Correct, because
So,
that was another thing that was expressed, that under duress, under stress, can you remember details? You know.
Oh, yeah, it's some people might, but some might not.
Okay, someone just stabbed your best friend in front of you. You are obviously not going to remember every single detail around you at that moment, because most of us who see that kind of thing go into some kind of a shock, you know,
Yes.
or a reaction like that. And I'm sure that's what that kid was probably stunned to realize that his father was murdered. So a lot of the details he didn't remember on the spot while being asked, because he wasn't going to, because you know.
Well, yes.
But anyways, this is this is what happened. All of them decided to do a full on vote, and one of them voted not guilty. And they all looked at him and they're all like, "What the fuck?" You know. That's that what the fuck moment. Like, they want to get out of there, and you're the only one stopping us from going anywhere. And one guy said, "Hey, I've got a baseball game I gotta go to. How long is this gonna take?" Well, I was like, "Well, that's only an hour from now. Don't you have enough time to sit down so that we can discuss this and talk it out?"
Yeah, well, one thing this movie made me wonder is how's it even possible that just any random common people could be members of the jury, that they don't have to be professionals trained at analyzing evidence and things like that.
Well, that's the thing about a jury. It's it's not exact that you got to have like someone who is a professional in the stuff. It makes it diverse. Everyone has a different opinion, and if you just picked and choose, random people. I mean, that's why there are people that actually go out and pick and choose which jurors they want to have on the jury, um, because they'll go. And I know sometimes it takes days for them to pick the right jury if they don't like the way the people look, and they just if they don't have enough jurors, they go back into the pool and be like, okay, send out for these people. Let's see what they look like, you know, and vice versa, right, Tammy? haven't we
I-
seen many different court processes where the prosecutor and the lawyers, they pick like the jury picks, so it can probably be quite expensive. Like I know there's a murder trial going on here in Milwaukee for a guy who decapitated a girl that this guy met on their first date, and he killed her and like left her
oh,
limbs and body pieces all over the place.
oh, damn.
They ended up going through a jury picking process that was publicly televised or whatnot. And I know
Well,
it
they had a
took a
hard
couple
time
of
with the
days.
process because it's like, how do you pick 12 jurors plus 3 alternates that don't have an opinion on this case and don't really know much about it? I mean, because it's been all over the news since it happened, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
well, honestly, I think it's wrong that they can just pick people to make decisions or on something like that. People who are not professionals and who just go by opinions and not by analyzable facts.
Well, that's just the way life is, and unfortunately, this is the way justice is run. I mean, it's run on the uh, whatever people are part of your country, and your fellow neighbors could end up being the ones that end up uh, on the case. And it can be anyone, random people. But that's why I think it's actually right. I guess it depends upon how bad the opinions are of these people. Some of these people live in under rocks and they don't know shit. So, and
Uh, yeah, and yet they can be a part of making a decision that can cost someone their life.
that's why you hope that you have a good lawyer and a good prosecutor. A good lawyer and a good prosecutor, it's a dime a dozen. And it's just like the one that we watched that you brought to the table. That prosecutor actually gave a shit.
Yes.
So you don't always get a prosecutor who will believe in justice.
I think I guess it would be Fonda's character, right? Um, I think that he's kind of like that, because he he was holding back because he just felt something wasn't, something wasn't right. It was bothering him that he could not, say for certainty that that's why he said not guilty, because he was, when they were trying to question him as to why he felt that way, he goes, I don't know yet, you know.
Well, and one of the first things that he mentioned was the fact that the lawyer, he was a court appointed lawyer, and there would have been some questions that even he would have actually asked to as part of his defense, but the lawyer never did a thing or even lifted a finger to even look like he was trying to defend his client, according to him, you know.
Yeah.
And then they were talking about the knife and and how it supposedly the kid wiped his fingerprints off of it, and he one of them stuck the knife on the table, and then Henry Fonda's character pulled out a very similar knife and you know, basically
Wasn't it?
proved that you could pick it up at the same pawn or a similar pawn shop for like $6.
Yeah, I
And
actually thought the knives were identical.
yeah, the knives were identical. They were. Another instance about the knife was when Jack Klugman's character said the neighborhood he grew up in, he knew exactly which way to hold the knife, and the way to hold the knife was not in a downwards angle at all. It was actually as if it was in his hand, and he was splicing it through the air. And everybody who came up and held it in a downward spiral, he explained that knife would never have been held in that way if you'd have known in the slums how to use a switchblade. You know,
Yes.
so another thing that was brought forward. Well, how much time the train actually did go past, how much noise it made. How would that old man be able to hear all of that which he had heard if this noise was going right by his place? Another thing, and I like this part, was when this older man that was sitting next to Henry Fonda's character, and he was noticing how the one guy had took his glasses off and rubbing his nose, and apparently they had noticed that the woman, the same woman that all the ones that were saying guilty, and this witness, there was no chance in hell that her testimony could be, unhinged in any way, or stricken out for any reason. Well, one of them noticed that. In fact, a lot of them had noticed that she had some imprints on the bridge of her nose where glasses could have been, and it was questioned how does anyone go to bed with their glasses on their face, and they're like, no. Well, I'm sure well and dandy that she thought she saw the boy, but I bet you it was blurry then for her. The other thing was the old man story. The older man that was sitting next to Henry Fonda, well, he said something to the effect, well, the older man might have wanted a little bit of attention because the older you get, the less people pay attention to you, and to actually be noticed in the newspaper, and having been a no one before for that must have actually felt pretty good.
True.
To be noticed like that and have this much attention, well, wouldn't you? If you were that lonely enough, would you try to give yourself some attention?
Probably, yeah. Just I wouldn't like to. I wouldn't like to accuse someone of something like that if I am not really sure what I saw and heard.
So, and prejudice is what a lot of them came in with. the main prejudiced guy. Well, I think by the end of the whole entire film, he ended up looking at his the picture of his son and realizing that he came in with extreme prejudice because of what was going on with his son. Because evidently his son hasn't talked to him for 2 years, and they had a huge argument the last time that he was living with him, and that was something he was dealing with personally. So I think that clouded his judgment all throughout. The other
Yeah,
guy, the other guy, that old man who kept sniffling or coughing or whatnot, not. I loved it when everyone just stood up and stopped listening to him, because he was just bound and determined and sure that he was right in talking about they and them, and he evidently had so much venom against the kids of today and whatnot, that he was sure in his brain that kid was guilty, no matter what information was being brought about. But I do believe that after his him sitting down and actually finally listening, he also did finally say not guilty before the end.
actually, yes.
So
Uh, Honestly, the way he was acting, I was kind of expecting some twist where it would turn out that he is actually the killer.
oh no. But ultimately it was pretty awesome. Once the truth, the facts started to come out, and how many of them actually went into that bathroom, and well, the one guy, he kept saying, you do gooders do this, you do gooders do that, and why can't you just you know uh say guilty along with us, that you're wrong, you know that type of thing. And another guy, a guy decided to hammer that nail in a little bit longer. Maybe not as like jerkish, but and then there's of course that same guy, a guy who told him, hey, just say guilty. He decided to finally say not guilty, just to end everything. He didn't really have a reason. But that watch guy, I'm glad that he came around halfway through, because he started having questions, and he's the one who said, "Hey, what gives you the right to suddenly turn around and say not guilty for no reason?" He's like, "I don't have to answer to you," and he's like, "I think you do. You don't have a right to talk to me like that. I have every right to talk to you like that. What? How dare you decide on a man's life just because?" And then of course, there were some guys playing tic tac toe across from each other. I believe that was the I believe that was the salesman and the final guy who told them the kid was guilty all the way through. And Henry Fonda's character comes over them, crumples up the paper they were writing on, is like, "This is not a game," you know.
Yeah, that was really highly unprofessional behavior.
Well, and some
That
of them
was
were
that
laughing.
was way later.
I mean, yeah, it was way later, but there were guys there that were laughing about it.
Well, yeah, the advertisement dude was doodling and making advertisements. trying to plan out for his job and doodling and make, and everything. The other guy, the one guy was all gung ho about he's gonna miss his baseball game. You know,
Well, yeah. Um,
it's like everybody had their own little quirk. You know,
yep. And I don't think it was until that old man had said something about the woman having the marks on her nose. That's when it really turned the tables, because that pretty much broke down the main witness that was pretty much lynching the whole thing together.
that
The
old man was very observant.
Yes,
I mean, he totally described um how her makeup was, what she wore, how she acted.
and wasn't it that same old man that noticed the limp of the guy, of the old man?
I think so. He was very, very observant of the witnesses, and that kind of helped to break down their what they said, because he was so precise. He really paid attention, you know, because he was the one that came up with the idea that the older gentleman, like you said earlier, might have wanted attention, and this was a way to get attention. You know,
Well, and that's when someone that were in is saying, what the hell does that have to do with anything? And it's like it has everything to do with it if it was true. And honestly, a lot of this was just a lot of what ifs in reality, but these are all possibilities that they're talking about. That's the thing. Uh, a lot of it can be explained away, but there are some things that just cannot be explained or re-explained over. And finally, at the end of everything, they were even able to cut down even the most staunch and upright people who were saying guilty all the way through. Even that guy with the glasses had to admit that that finally he was beginning to doubt. He was so staunch towards the end. I mean, he was one of the top three. You know, and
Yes.
when he thought about it, he did notice the lady had those marks, and he was already starting to falter because he couldn't remember the names or the entire title of the second movie that he saw on that Monday before.
Oh,
right?
that was
He's
good.
like, are you under duress or anything that you can't remember? You know,
Yeah, and he wasn't.
right?
So
And it's like, he also broke down, besides the glasses with the lady, he broke down about how long it would, you know, how long that train thing was there, and things like that, and then he, of course, the glasses thing, because he was asking the gentleman that wore glasses, would you sleep with your glasses on? You know,
Mm,
we
yeah.
don't, and we don't know what her prescription is, but he was saying, you, most people don't sleep with their glasses on. So, in that split second that she had to look, did she grab her glasses or not?
yeah, and they
Oh,
were also questioning why would you come back to the scene if you had actually, done the dirty deed. And some of them were saying that he was coming back to wipe the knife, but then it would take time for him to do that. And another thing that was mentioned is that the kid evidently couldn't speak that much English. So, although 18 years old, they were saying that he didn't know much English, or if he did know much English, it was very little that he knew how to speak, supposedly.
Oh yeah, true. I kind of forgot that detail.
Didn't you hear that, Tammy? That he couldn't speak much English.
I don't remember hearing it. I'm sorry.
But I remember them saying something like that. So how could he actually fully state that statement that I'm going to kill you, and there and I believe Henry Fonda's character was like, how many times have you said that specific thing? I'm going to kill you, dear, or something like that.
Well, yeah. Then later on, he provokes that guy to say it.
Yep.
That was brilliant.
And he was trying to explain it away to that guy with the glass, and he was like, well, he did a darn good job at provoking you.
He did.
So, but that's the thing. The other thing that was going on in the room is that it was starting to get really hot. The fan wasn't working, and then when they turned off the lights, and eventually, like 3/4 of the way through, they figured out that the fan was actually on the same switch as the light switch. So they were finally able to get the heat but then that one guy was bothering that other guy by throwing that paper through that fan.
Yes.
And of course, it started to rain profusely outside. And that's when we get the little bit a bit of story from the guy who was kind of helping direct everything, where he was like a high school baseball coach or whatnot, and he talked about how there was this day where I swear it was a year ago, and it was raining just like this, and it made it tough for everyone around. But it was shortly after that guy was. I think he turned around and said not guilty after he heard the whole woman, the woman who was the witness, having the glasses marks on her face. But in any case, at the end of everything, I think we've pretty much touched on all the bases, unless anyone else has anything to add. Did I miss anything?
Did you mention about how the old guy, how did he hear him say, I'm going to kill you because of how loud the train is?
Yeah, he does incite the one guy into actually like threatening him his life. Right?
Well, no, he says that the old, how loud the train is how could he have heard the kids say I'm going to kill you, because the train would have been too loud for him to hear it.
Well, yeah. He also said the same well, a similar thing about how many seconds do you think that the train would go through with a 6-car thing? And they all said about 10 to 11 seconds. You know.
But in that time is when supposedly the older gentleman downstairs heard the kids say that, and that's when they're saying he couldn't have heard it because the train would have been there right then, and it would have been too loud to hear that.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I don't think that watching something happen through the windows of a fast moving train could happen. You know, that would be as if you drew several pictures in a flip book and watched it move from page to page and have it happen within 10 seconds, except you're watching it in the background of a window and then it disappears after that, you know?
Yes.
But I think we are at the end of the movie by now. What did y'all think about the production overall? I mean, this was pretty much done in one room. Well, maybe two, including the bathroom. Maybe three, including the court room at the very beginning.
Yes, yes.
And it was done in a closed space.
My
So,
thing,
yeah.
my thing that I liked about the production, though, basically was the turnaround. You know,
What do you mean?
You had one guy at the beginning that held back, saying not guilty, and then through the course of the movie, it turns completely around, and you got everybody saying not guilty, and one person saying guilty. You know, I mean, it totally does a complete flip around. You know, and
Yes.
I like how they did. I like how they did it. You know, I mean, of course, I liked the setting and everything else and in the production, but I thought that was one of the best things like that. That gradual just totally flipped. You know.
Well, yeah. I mean, it got quickly down to the 6 and 6, actually, to be fair and honest. But then once it got down to the 6 jurors versus the 6 others, then it's like that's when everybody started to crack, you know?
Yeah.
It was definitely interesting how they got down to their final decision. And I think when you put a certain set amount of individuals, and you got to remember, this is a time before jurors were even more diverse when they added colored people and
women
colored men and women and
women, period.
women in a period, because this was a time when they didn't allow women to be allowed to be on a jury at any given point in time. So that was another thing, you know.
Yeah, so diversity is more important than knowledge and professionalism. Fuck that.
But it was, the times. I mean, that's what it was.
Is it different nowadays?
Oh yeah, it's definitely different nowadays.
Why is it? What is it? Totally different than that by where you live?
Actually, over here we don't have as far as I know, I don't really study those things much, but over here we don't even do it with juries, as far as I know.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Do you even
I
do
think.
lawyers?
Yes, yes. There are lawyers like defenders and prosecutors, but yeah, I don't think there are juries in our system.
Huh.
Oh, just the lawyers and the judges, huh?
Well, yes, yes.
That's weird. I've always well there are trials where uh, jurors aren't necessarily needed at times, I guess, but that's only if a judge actually judges it so, you know, because a judge can always decide, okay, we're going to have a trial by no jury, you know,
Right.
but
They have non-jury trials. Yes.
so it doesn't always happen. Where they actually
No.
have they have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that that there is a reason for them to be put in front of a jury to begin with. So, but in any case, I really like how the descending opinions work in this movie. There are guys of every level, I think, and there was even some disrespect towards the elderly in here too. I mean, there are levels of hatred that you see towards each and every one of these men. You know,
There's
uh,
Mm,
definitely some diversity in there.
yep.
You know.
And there was a guy. Okay, so Henry Fonda's character actually has them do a vote without him being part of the voting process. Um, and the one that ends up breaking down towards the very end, he accuses Jack Klugman's character of being the not guilty vote because it was a vote that was done, in secret. So he assumed that guy was the one who voted, and he really got upset when he was accused of that. And it ended up being the older man. So I really thought that it was definitely a different and a diverse thing set of people, and the fact that they were able to get down to all of that by all of that discussion was amazing, especially when everyone started out as being guilty or saying that the dude was guilty. A lot of them didn't want to discuss it, like the, the character of Davis wanted, but he really made them sit and think. Even the ones that were heavily opinionated, although the ones that were so stoic in their opinions are the ones that broke down in the end. Like I swear that that set of jurists broke two people in that room, if not three, of their very strong opinions. You know,
yes.
I swear the dude with the glasses, he was so dumbfounded. um, And the other guy that was so stoic in his opinions of the young, uh, I think he was a little bit broken, but when the dude gets so angry and then finally realizes that looking at the picture of his son in the end, I I think that kind of breaks him because he thought he was so right, and then he realized he was so wrong. But I also like that Davis actually gently grabbed his coat and put it on him and respected him towards the end.
Yes.
He gave him a little bit of respect by doing that and doing it silently. Everyone just kind of left the room, and I just think it was a really cool movie. You got to see it at least once. I don't think there was much music involved, so I don't think we really have to talk about that.
Yeah, I didn't notice much music.
So let's go into favorite scenes and/or favorite characters. Let's start with you, Boris, since I started out with Tammy. Favorite scenes and/or favorite characters.
Well, I think my favorite character would be Davis. That was the first guy who said not guilty, right?
Right.
Yeah, he would be my favorite character, and my favorite scene probably when he provoked this major asshole into saying I'm gonna kill you, and then telling him you didn't mean that, did you? That was the moment when he proved his point the best, and I liked that. And one thing I'd like to say about the whole thing that I somehow didn't get a moment to say throughout the discussion. The whole question was whether the guy killed his father or not. While my thoughts throughout the whole movie were, yeah, maybe he did it, but even if he did do it, this father was an abusive asshole, and honestly, he deserved what he got. And seriously, fuck the system for allowing itself to criminalize people for doing justice. And whoever did kill that asshole, if
No
that's
matter
the
how
only
much
person.
bad something does to you, or is abusive to you, I don't
He,
care who
he
you
was
are.
physically abusing his son, from what we heard.
No one deserves to die by our hand. We are not there to be God. I know it's kind of a frontier justice, where there is no law. Let's just go out and lynch him or hang him or whatnot. I get that. That people wish that we could go back to those days where we could just take and duel with them or something like that to high noon or.
Honestly, whoever kills a child abuser, if they don't kill anyone aside from that child abuser, that killer is a hero, not a criminal to me.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we are not supposed to be judging people.
Fuck that.
We are not supposed to be the judges. That's what judges are for.
Yeah,
You have to have faith, a little faith in the system in order to,
as if judges do that job because they genuinely care about justice and not just because that job pays good money.
I would have to say that 50% of them do. I have to believe that there is at least some justice out there. Yes, there are a lot of people who don't believe that our justice system does the right things, and that's why we have so many criminals. But
Uh, yes.
if you always believe in that mindset, then of course you're always gonna live live with that kind of knowledge where you think that okay, the government is already a fucked up system, so why should I believe in it? But
Definitely.
uh, there's always the moments where they get things right, and there are times like that. It's
Uh,
just you know
Sometimes.
the way of the world. It's not just sometimes. I would have to say more likely than most, but there are times that they get that. See, I think they got it wrong with Jeffrey Dahmer, but somebody decided to kill him in jail. Now that a lot of us believe was justice.
But that guy did do what he was accused of, didn't he?
Yes,
Then,
so did OJ, but somehow he got off on a technicality. So I mean,
uh,
I mean, OJ also went around and was going to write about a book. Okay, I didn't do it, but this is how I would have done it.
yeah, see the absurdity of it. I actually saw a recording of OJ at the trial. Like, of course, those stupid gloves didn't fit when he had a pair of nylon gloves underneath. Like, no shit.
Well,
Well,
Jerry at work last night and I were talking about the one that's going on right now that we said about the guy on trial for killing the girl and dismembering her. We were talking about that too. That you know, yes, we hope he gets convicted and everything, but you know, we don't have the death penalty in Wisconsin, so that means we're going to have to sit here and pay for this idiot to live the rest of his life, unless something great happens, like what happened with Dahmer. And Jerry started laughing. He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "So you were happy when Dahmer got it in jail?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I was about ready to celebrate. Now we didn't have to pay for that idiot to live the rest of his life." And
Well,
Jerry and I were both like, if it is for sure that this person killed this person, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. They really did it. I'm sorry, you don't deserve to live. You don't deserve for me to pay for you to sit there even in that cell and live your damn life. You
everything that I've heard about the case right now, the way that it looks, without any other evidence to prove otherwise, it looks like the guy did it.
But the point
well,
is, with Wisconsin not having the death penalty, we'll have to pay for this idiot to live the rest of his life, and I don't think that's right.
Yeah, I don't think that's right either. I believe in the death penalty, and we have too many pussies in our American politics in the state of Wisconsin.
And another thing I really hate about the so-called justice system is that all it does is when shit like that happens, the whole focus is just on punishing crime when it happens, but they do little to nothing to prevent crime happening in the first place.
Well, at the end of the day, you gotta have police uh, investigations that actually like follow all the leads, and instead of worrying about okay, your boss is saying something to the effect, oh, let's just find someone, pin it on him, and you know, I mean, we've had a history of actually just catching the first one that looks guilty. You know.
And in my opinion, more effort should be put into improving the mental health care system to prevent the more mentally fragile people from becoming desperate enough to resort to murder.
Well, it would go a long way to have your insurance be able to pay for some of this shit too. So, because now we've got insurance companies deciding what they really want to pay for.
Yeah, so money is more important than people's mental health and people's lives.
And people's health in general. But
Yes.
that's neither here nor there. So, Tammy, what did you favorite scenes and or favorite character?
Oh, my favorite character was Fonda.
Okay,
Well, one of my
favorite.
favorite scenes, Philippe already said, I did like that one, when he did the provoking.
Yeah.
But I also, I like when the older gentleman was getting everybody to think, and he was talking about the indentations on the nose, and he kept trying to, and everybody kept interrupting him. He's like, "Would you just, listen to me?" And he's like, "Well, what?" The one guy goes, "Well, what difference is it? Just let me tell you."
Mm-hmm.
He kept getting interrupted when he was trying to get it out as to why this would be important.
Yeah.
But he didn't stop. He just kept going forward until he finally got out what he wanted to say. And when he finally did, all of a sudden everybody started thinking. And then all of a sudden you have this one guy go, "Oh yeah, I noticed she did have those." And another guy, "Yeah, she did." So I like how that went down.
Okay. And
Yeah.
me, I also like Fonda. He's like the voice of reason. Even though everyone's kind of angry at him for being the do-gooder or the person that just won't allow the thing to end. Because everybody just wants to get out of there at the end of the day. The room is getting hotter. Tempers are starting to flare, and it just doesn't look like they're going to get out of there because they're at a stalemate, But, um, the truth eventually does out. Even the cold, harsh truth at the end of the day breaks through the strongest of opinions. And honesty is kind of what kept things afloat. I think honest
Hmm.
men who kept questioning, who kept having an open mind, and then those that were willing to follow the reasoning and the logic. Some of them just weren't that willing. Some of
True.
them just went along with it just to see that it ended. But some of them actually, like me, my one of my favorite moments is when the clock guy gets up in the one dude's face and is like, "How dare you?" You know, and he's trying to tell him he can't talk to him like that, like the hell I can't. you know, it's
Yeah.
that moment I thought was great because for that much of that he was also strongly opinionated and saying the charge of guilt, but he started questioning things too, you know, and when the dude just kind of flipped over to not guilty just to get things done because that seemed to be the way the boat was going. He basically told him, "Hey, If you're gonna say not guilty, at least feel something about it first. You know, actually have an opinion.
Oh yes, that
Uh, but the guy didn't seem to have the right reason to say not guilty. You know, so that even though I like the other two that you guys mentioned, that is my favorite scene.
fair
I,
enough.
I, I don't know why. Maybe it's because the dude was so staunchly spouting guilty for a moment, and then suddenly he's fighting for at least you should have a reason to say that or have the opinion to have not guilty for the right reason. And and I agree. If you're gonna state something, you should feel something for it too, and not just you're playing with a man's life here. It's not not a game, and you shouldn't just flip a switch in your mind just because that just seems to be the opinion that everybody is leading towards.
Yeah,
You should have your own independent opinion to bring to the table and be able to recognize what's wrong and right in your own mind instead of being an everyman. You know. Well, I'm just gonna go with the majority opinion. You know. So at least that's where I sit. But in any case, well, I think that's pretty much it then. So hopefully, you ladies and gentlemen out there have enjoyed our discussion. If you followed along with us, like, share, and subscribe. Let us know down in the comments what you thought of the discussion, what you thought of the movie. If you haven't seen the movie, go out and see it. Come back and just let us know. I think this is a very good um, drama to have people talk about and discuss because they do their own way of analyzing throughout the process, and I think it's a very good showing of what what could happen behind the closed doors in that jury room. And I don't remember too many that have to do specifically with what happens in the jury room, you know, except for some various court dramas that I've seen on television. I don't remember too many movies that do this. Do you, Tammy? Remember any other movie that might have actually dealt specifically with the jurors?
Um, that dealt with the jurors. Not right offhand.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not remembering much of any movies that have dealt with this, with just what happens in the jury room. So I think this. I think that's why this also sticks out to me. So, but other than that, just something I wanted to get out there. I mean, if any one of you out there can think of any other movies that have that are similar, where it specifically deals with people in a jury room trying to decide a verdict. That would be awesome if someone brought something forward so that we can check it out. But in any case, we'll see you next time here on Delusions of Grandeur. So everyone say good night.
And what are we doing next time?
Next time is you, I believe, my good friend Boris. What did you have in mind?
Oh, I have in mind a movie from 2023, not a very well-known one. It's called Silent Life, The Story of the Lady in Black.
It's called Silent Life.
Yeah, Silent Life, The Story of the Lady in Black. That's
Oh,
the full title.
okay. Well, you'll have to either send it to me, because or whatnot, like you did the last time.
Yes,
And
I will do that. That one was actually really difficult to track down, so yeah, I will send it to you.
okay, and as long as you do that, like maybe directly afterwards, sometime today, because then you
Oh,
don't forget.
today, yeah, I think I can do that.
Okay, and that way we'll have it, and we can watch it anytime this week. So,
Good.
alrighty. Well, in any case, ladies and gentlemen, I bid you adieu, and everyone say good night.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.